Arsenal 2, Brentford 1. We've got the job done. Arsenal did not blink. And at one point, it looked like we might have done. Look, we'll get into the game. I've just got back from the stadium. The Emirates today, the atmosphere is back. It feels like last season again. And do you know what? That second goal in the second half, I felt like the North Bank willed that in. It felt like they sucked it into the goal every corner, every time there was a chance. The atmosphere was there. And look, that's what we need this season. I'm buzzing. I'm absolutely buzzing because, you know, look, we're not going to win every game 3, 4, 5, 6-0. It's not going to happen. And in those games where things go wrong and you're not at that same relentless pace as we have been, you've still got to get the wins. That's what Liverpool have done. And we had to do it today. We had to find a way. And we found a way. And it was Kai Havertz again. 4 games in a row that Kai Havertz has scored. He's now equaled his best ever return in a Premier League season. And there's still 8 games to go. Buzzing for him. Look, Ramsdale. Aaron Ramsdale. I am so glad that we won that game for him. Because if the memory of Ramsdale had been that game and that mistake, it would have been horrible for him. I still love Ramsdale. You know, the knee slide and cupping his ears to the Brentford fans when we scored the second. It's shithousery. It really is, but I love it. That's, you know, part of what makes Aaron Ramsdale who he is. And look, it's a shocking mistake for the goal. There's no two ways about it. There's no sugarcoating it. It's an awful mistake. And that's the difference between him and David Raya. And ultimately, that is the reason that Mikel Arteta has chosen David Raya. You know, in that situation, and especially to do it on the brink of halftime, is almost criminal. But that position is where David Raya is almost like a central midfielder. You know, if David Raya is receiving the ball there, before the ball's at his feet, he knows exactly where his teammates are. He knows exactly where the ball is about to go. And so he doesn't need to take a touch and hesitate and look up and take another touch. It's one touch and gone. And because of that, the dog's going crazy. She's loving it as well. Because of that, David Raya doesn't make similar mistakes. And it's been a theme for Ramsdale that he's always been right on the edge with that sort of thing. To the extent that, you know, it becomes an unnecessary risk. And yeah, you know, Thomas Frank has praised Johan Visser for, you know, accelerating towards it, but there's more than enough time for Ramsdale to pick out a pass there, and it should just go wide to Saliba, who is in plenty of space. And so, look, the mistake was made, and at that point, all you can do is dust yourself off, carry on. The crowd got behind him. And in the second half, he made 2 big saves. You know, the one from Ivan Toney, that long shot, nearly caught him off guard, had visions of Sporting Lisbon in the Europa League last year, but he made a big save there, and he made another big save from the header later on. And ultimately, he won't be remembered for that mistake. And that is important for me, and I'm sure for him, and I'm happy. I'm happy for him because that would have been a hard way to go out. And look, people underestimate, you know, the what a lack of game time can have on a player. Not that I'm making an excuse for him because I don't care how rusty you are, you shouldn't make that mistake. But you've got to, you know, he was rusty. He was rusty. And in the end, it didn't matter. But as an overall, and look, that was a complete individual error. You can't put that error on anyone else in the team. That was on him. But as a collective, we do still need to make sure that we stop giving up these goals, you know, especially in where you've dominated the first half, not been as free-flowing perhaps as we have been recently, but we still dominated it. We limited Brentford to very little. We got the 1-0 lead, which was important. To give them that goal, almost going into half-time, they're on such a high because it's not even like if they'd really warranted the goal themselves. It's almost like, oh my God, how have we got away with this? How are we drawing at half-time? And that gives them a big boost. And so we had to come out in the second half. We had to be a lot better. And we were. I thought we were much better in the second half. We were creating a lot more. And it took a while. It took a while for that goal to come. But eventually it did. Ben White with the ball in and Kai Havertz with the header. The Emirates erupted. And yeah, I was absolutely buzzing with that. In terms of some controversies that people are talking about, Thomas Frank and some people don't think that Kai Havertz should have been on the pitch to score his goal because he was on a booking and then he dived, supposedly, and he didn't get a second booking for it. Now, there's a few things here, right? As soon as Havertz goes down and Rob Jones doesn't immediately book him, VAR cannot intervene with that. That is not something that VAR can then go, after the check for the penalty, because there was a check for a penalty. So, it was close enough that it required a check. But after that, the VAR cannot go to Rob Jones, well, it's a dive, and Rob Jones can't turn around and book Kai Havertz, right? So that's not on VAR. That's an in-the-moment decision from Rob Jones. He didn't see enough to give it as a dive. And I would say this at the very least. If you're a Manchester City fan and you're complaining about this, which I've seen plenty of doing, Rodri in the Manchester derby, blatant dive, didn't get booked. So just simmer yourself down a little bit on that one. And outside of that, if you're complaining about the Kai Havertz lack of a sending off, then you should equally be complaining that Gabriel wasn't awarded a penalty for a blatant shirt pull. And that happened, by the way, right in front of me. I was in the corner, happened right in front of me. I was almost directly behind the linesman. And it was clear as day that he was being pulled back and dragged down. For the linesman not to wave his flag, I thought was criminal, because it was, from our angle, it was absolutely blatant. So if you're not complaining about that decision, and you're not complaining about the penalty that should have been given to Martin Ødegaard from a push on from Norgard, well, then I don't care what you have to say, because you have a biased agenda if you're complaining about the Havertz lack of a red card, but you're not complaining about the lack of penalties being awarded to Arsenal. So you cannot have it both ways. I actually thought Rob Jones was terrible tonight. I thought Gabriel being booked really early on was very harsh. I thought Havertz's first booking actually was very harsh. He wasn't giving fouls to us that I thought he should have been, and I think we should have had at least 2 penalties. So the refereeing, the controversies, if you want to try and blame that, I think it's embarrassing if you're going to try and blame that. And I think ultimately Arsenal probably were actually on the receiving end of more poor decisions than we benefited from. The only one of those being the potential red card for Kai Havertz that I don't think was. Benny Blanco, Ben White, I want to talk about him. What a player. What a player. Since Dubai, he has just been at a top level. And today, whether it's predominantly, actually, he was the overlapping fullback today. Assisted both of the goals, defensively very good. It's criminal. It is criminal that he probably isn't going to be on the flight. I don't even know if it will be a flight. It will be a flight to the Euros in Berlin, in Germany. He probably won't be at the Euros. It's baffling. Whatever falling out he had with Southgate, you look at the way that he's currently performing, he is easily in the top 2 English defenders in the Premier League at the moment, alongside John Stones, comfortably. And look, we're very lucky. We are very lucky that he's come back in that way. Outside of that, there's some news on Gabriel Martinelli. He was seen in a protective boot around the Emirates this evening. However, it's thought that the reason for that is that he did just get a bad cut on his foot. And walking around with that sort of cut without a protective boot on can cause it to open up, and it can delay the recovery time. So it's still not bad. Even you might see that he's in a boot. It's not as bad as it seems. And interestingly, Team News and Ticks after the game came out, and he said, now that the game was over and the way that Toney had performed and the way Ivan Toney had behaved in that game, he could confirm that basically Arsenal had dropped their interest in Ivan Toney because of his personality. Basically, people at the club don't like him. They think he's a knob. And so it seems like Toney isn't going to be coming to us. And again, I didn't think he was brilliant tonight, to be honest. I didn't look at him and go, ooh, that's a player. Don't get me wrong, good player, but not the level raiser I think that we need. And it seems like that personality and the behavior of him is enough. And Gabriel really doesn't like him. Gabriel, I remember, tweeted the nice kickabout with the boys after we beat Brentford last time. And he squared up to Toney today. Really doesn't like him. So Toney probably not coming. Martinelli probably not going to be available for Porto, but should be available after the international break. Little bonus, he might not actually go on the international break, which could in the long term be better for us. Outside of that, Declan Rice, brilliant again. Oh, God, if that Declan Rice goal had gone in off the upright, that would have been on top of the headed goal already. I mean, that would have been sensational. And by the way, now Declan Rice has the same number of goal and assists just by himself as Endo, McAllister, Caicedo, and Enzo Fernandez combined in the Premier League this season. And this is a defensive midfielder who has led us to the best defense in the Premier League. So massive credit to Declan Rice. And we shouldn't have needed the second goal to win the game, but we did. And that's what it is. But look, now roll on Porto. Mikel Arteta, big in his interview after the game, big on bringing the atmosphere to the Porto game. I'll be there. I'm buzzing for it. The atmosphere is well and truly back at the Emirates at the moment. And look, we win that game. Depending on what happens tomorrow, we go into the international break either first or second, hopefully into the next round of the Champions League. And things are looking good and things are looking exciting. And I'm just so glad tonight didn't end in a draw because that would have been really sour. Thank you for watching the video. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe before you jump off. Click a like on it as well. That would be much appreciated. And I will see you at 1 p.m. tomorrow for the Aston Villa Tottenham watch along. That will be on Tifo. The link to that is in the description of this video. Use the code Rory, RORY, in full caps when you sign up to Tifo. I'll be live for the watch along of that. Tifo is a brand new streaming platform for football watch alongs. It's brilliant. It's new. It's exciting. So I hope to see you there at 1 o'clock tomorrow. But until then, have a fantastic evening and goodbye.